Welcome back everyone to the ultimate guide to Blender 3D rigging and animation, and this is where we left it off. Alright, so let's come to our spike. So I'm going to grab my spike, I'm going to press the little dot button on the number pad just to zoom in, and then also I'm going to set my keyframe to frame 1, like so. Now what we want in this first one is we want a root bone, and we only need one other bone because it's simply moving in and out. So that's what we're going to do. So while my actual orientation is here, we might as well press Ctrl A, all transforms, right click, set origin to geometry, like so, and then Shift S, cursor to selected. Then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in a bone. I'm going to bring in a root bone. So first of all, bring in an armature, like so. I'm going to make this bone much bigger so it just pokes out of there. And then while I'm there, I'm going to press Tab, and then I'm going to press Shift A and create another bone. I'm going to also make this bone really big, so I'm going to pull it out with the S button. Hopefully I've grabbed it. I don't think I have. So if you want to see your bone, press Z, go into wireframe, and now we can see our bone is this one here. I'm going to rotate it round as well. So RX90, rotate it round so it's coming out of there, and then make it a little bit bigger. Now if I press Z, go back into solid mode, we should end up with something like this. Now what I want to do is I want to rename my bone. So I'm going to come to this first one. I'm going to press F2. I'm going to call it root bone. So root bone. And then press Tab, come to the next bone, F2, and we'll call this, let's call it spike, bone, something like that. And of course you can name yours whatever you wish. All right, so now let's come to actually weighting this out. So like we've done in the previous parts of the course, we're going to actually have our root bone weigh into nothing except this one here. So just this bone is going to be parented up to it. And then this bone here is going to be doing all of the major work. So I guess the first thing we should do is we should grab this bone, press Ctrl P, and then keep offset. And now we should have a little line that goes from here to our root bone. In other words, you can test that out. If I grab this bone, press the G, you can see that there's a little bone there. Now also, if I go to pose mode now, grab this bone and I press G, that bone should come with it. All right, so far so good. So now let's go back to object mode. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to weight this up. So I'm going to grab my actual armature, grab my spike, press Ctrl P, and it's not that way around. So it's going to be the spikes first, then the armature, press Ctrl P, and we're going to do it with empty groups. So empty groups like so. And now what we're going to do is we're going to come back to our bones, press the tab button. And just on this occasion, what we'll do is we'll just make sure that they're actually named so you can see root bone and spike bone. Now what we'll do is we'll come to our spikes. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to our little green triangle here, and you can see that I've got a few bones on here that shouldn't be with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to minus those off. That is another thing to check for. What these bones are there from is the previous one. So like we deleted with the armature, then this actual one in particular has those two bones from previously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm going to delete those. So I'm going to delete those off like so. And then I've got my root bone and my spike bone. Now the thing is, on the rest of them, I have actually deleted those off. So don't worry. It's just to show you what actually might happen, why you might have more bones than what you intended. So now finally we can get on with the task of actually weighting these up. Now, if I come to my spikes, you'll see now I've got a root bone and a spike bone. Now, if I press tab and grab everything, I want to make sure, first of all, that my root bone has no weight. So I'm going to remove 100% of it. So let's remove that. And then what we're going to do now is come to our spike bone. And what I want to do is make sure that my spike bone has everything but this part in it. So I'm going to, first of all, remove everything. And then what I'll do is I'll grab all of this part in here. We can also, as well, before we do that, actually, isolate it out. So if I press Shift H, it will isolate everything out, including my bones. But for this, I don't even need to see my bones, so it doesn't really matter. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to come, press the tab button now, grab all of this and press H, hide it out the way. Now I know that everything else that's left should be attached to my spike bone. So I can just come in and press the A button and then come and assign 100% of the weight. So let's assign that now. Now let's go and see if it works. So first of all, I want to press Alt-H to bring back the actual place where all these spikes are in. I'm going to press Tab. I'm going to press Alt-H then to bring everything back. And because we hid everything over here on the right-hand side in our collections, the actual lights and the vines and things like that shouldn't actually appear. So that's really great. Now all you need to do is just double-click the A button, and there we go. Now let's see if this actually works first of all. So if I come to my bones, come to my pose mode, grab this bone first of all and move it, everything should move, as you can see. So everything is moving except the actual part which is in the center, which we don't need anyway. And then the next thing we want to do is check this, and as you can see, the spikes now are actually working. All right, so now let's actually start with the animation. So first of all, on frame 1, I actually want it to be here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press I, location, and I don't need to bother with the scale. I don't need to bother with the rotation or anything like that. So I'm literally just going to click location. I'm going to put this on, which is my auto keying. And then what I can do is I think we'll have it coming in 4 times over 300 frames. So that means that we basically just want to do this once, and then what we'll do is we'll copy it and base it over 300 frames, rather than trying to use some maths and work it all out, which is going to be a little bit hard. So what we'll do is we'll come to frame 50, like so. And remember, if you can't put it on frame 50, just put it in over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this out. So I'm going to bring it out to where I want it. So something like that. And then what I'm going to do is you can see it's already keyed in for us, so that's fine. So now we should have just going in and going out. Now let's press Shift D on this one. So grab just this keyframe here, bring it over, press Shift D like so. So now what we should have is this coming out and going back in like so. Now there is a point where I do actually want it to pause. So I want it to come out and then I want it to pause. Not quite like this. And I also want it to come out faster, but I do want it to pause once it's here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this bone. I'm going to put it on something like maybe, let's put it on 40. So if I bring this down, if I zoom in more, so middle mouse button to zoom in more, let's put this on 40. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift D and bring it up to 60. And now we can see there's a line over there. What that means is it's actually going to come out. It's going to pause like so, and then it's going to go back in. That is exactly what we want. Now, we need to actually make it come out much faster and go in slower. So in other words, let's grab our start. What we're going to do is we're going to move this up to maybe frame 30. So let's give that a try. So I'm going to press spacebar. And there you go. Much slower going back in. That actually probably is actually perfect to how we want it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to press A. We're going to grab all of these. Then I'm going to press G and move them back to my actual start, like so. Now what we want to do is we really want it to start from here and exactly the same process. So we want it to come, it's coming back in, and we want it to actually stay there for a little bit of amount of time. Now you can see at the moment, this is actually on 71. I don't particularly want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that down then to 70, just to keep it a little bit more even. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it stay here for another 10 frames. So I'm going to move it up to, let's say, frame 80. Then I'm going to press Shift D, drag it over, and drop it in there like so. Now this should then come out. So it's going to come out, and then it's going to stay for 10 frames, and then it's going to come out again. That is what I'm trying to achieve here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab all of these now, and I'm going to drag them over. So I've grabbed them all. I'm going to press Shift D and bring them over like so. So if I press Shift D, drag them over, and I'm going to drop this last frame in frame 80. So now you'll see that if I grab these, comes out, goes in, stays in a bit, comes out. Now, the one thing I'm not happy with here, you can see it stays there a bit of time, and then it actually comes out really fast. And I'm not sure that I actually want it coming out that fast. I think I want a little bit of more time basically between them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, press B, drag along, and then what I'll do is I'll bring this up to frame 100. So bring it up to frame 100 like so. Now let's see what that actually alters. I actually think that it's just all, yeah, that's exactly it. So there you go. That's exactly what I want. Something like that. Now we just need to copy this again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all of this. I'm going to press Shift D. I'm going to bring it all the way over to the last keyframe that we had and drop it in there. Now, for now, let's just put it on 350 frames, something like that. And then we just want to make sure that it's actually working correctly. So if I press spacebar now, you'll see it comes back, stays there a bit of time, comes out, stays there a bit longer this time, comes out. And there we go. All right, so you can see there's a little bit of randomness to it, and that's exactly what we want. All right, so now what we're going to do is we need it based over 300 frames. So I'm going to put it back to 300, like so. I'm going to go down then to frame 1, like so. I'm going to grab everything, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the S button and just shrink it down now to 300 frames. So you can see I've shrunk all of those down to make them fit. And now if I press spacebar, comes out, And there you go. That is exactly what we actually want. All right, so now what we want to do is I want to just put it back to frame 1, and then all I want to do now is put this on object mode, and you will be able to see now that even if I hide my bones out the way, which is what they will be hidden out the way in the render view anyway, if I hide them out the way, you can see now it working really, really nicely. All right, everyone, so that's it for that one. On the next one, then, what we'll do is we'll actually look at, I think we'll do something, we'll actually come to our arrows, seeing as we're here. So we'll have these arrows firing out, hitting the wall, dropping down, and then basically coming back to the point of these actual faces here. And what we'll also try to do is we'll try and get rid of the randomness. This we wanted random because it's supposed to come out, you know, when somebody's walking past it or something like that. With the arrows, I don't quite want them to be as random. I want them to be a lot more linear. All right, everyone. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.